Toulon edge a tight affair against Munster. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. This one was, a very close game. Could have gone either way, but I feel that, Toulon definitely deserved to win the game. Munster, the discipline not great towards the, the end of the game, really, in that one. So, we start off, though, with, Munster looking decent in attack. So they attack off the first scrum. It's a solid platform in their own half. And they go over halfway. Nash breaks a line. He then finds Farrell, who carries into the 22, but the ball dislodged in contact. And, you can see that their attack is finding space early on. Toulon then look to counter from the loose ball that come out of that. They kick long into the Munster 22. There's a really good chase for them, but Munster do well to tidy up and clear the ball. We then have a couple of kicks out on the full. One of them was from Crowley. The other one was from somebody else. Crowley cross-kicked, and the other one was like a kick up the line, that was misjudged. And that kind of that sequence is keeping Toulon in that area just outside the Munster 22. Munster's defence, though, they are frustrating Toulon. They managed to win a scrum and then a penalty off that. And they then bring play back into the Toulon half. Toulon, looking disjointed in attack early on. And, a couple of balls not in the right place and going to ground and stuff like that. Poor handling. And we have a poor pass from Brex. Basically to no one, and in the resulting kind of melee, Munster actually win a penalty because one of them gets taken out off the ball. So Crowley calls for the tee and opens the scoring 3-0 to Munster. Toulon then with a line out on the edge of the Munster 22, they go to the maul, but they basically get no change out of it. As so what they decide then is they're going to put it through the hands. They go wide right, and the ball hits the deck, and Munster, they hack it downfield. This initiates a foot race, and it is Drayon who wins that. He actually overtakes Nash and dots it down to prevent the try, and really good covering back from him. We're then seeing, a lot of kicking, a lot of handling errors, and therefore a lot of scrums. And it's from both teams. Toulon, probably the major culprits, taking a lot of risks, but not really paying off for them in the first half. We see them kind of, improve certainly in the second half in that aspect. But you would have said before the game, looking at that Toulon front row, that a lot of scrums would have been something that they, real boon for them. But Munster have been more than solid in the scrum through the game. O'Donoghue then, he rips the ball on the ground, and Toulon, they go to the edge of the 22 from that penalty. They move off the line out, but Adogbo gets over it to win the penalty for Munster. And Munster, I thought, were very good at the breakdown, getting in there, disrupting, either slowing the ball down or winning penalties. But, as the game wore on, they kind of went almost a step too far with that kind of stuff. And they were getting on the wrong side of the referee because of it. Toulon then, they steal the resulting line out, but they knock on as they look to shift it. Munster win another scrum penalty then from that scrum, and once again they point to the post, 6-0. Toulon then looking to counter from a kick. Fuerte runs across field, kind of Pinot-esque, where you run across the defensive line looking for a gap, and then he puts in a chip, and he gets kind of half body checked, half tripped by Farrell, and penalty Toulon. They go to the corner. They break off the maul and the forwards edge closer to the line. Munster managed to hold them out, but illegally, and Byrne goes to the bin. So 2 away games from Munster, and Byrne goes to the bin in both of them. Toulon tapped the penalty. Munster offside again. They go wide left. They almost get in the corner. And then they come back inside from there. And Ribbons goes over. But we have a TMO check. And or actually, they went wide right, and then they came back left. Sorry. But Ribbon goes over. We have a TMO check. Shane Daly is adjudged to have completed a tackle on Ribbons, who doesn't actually look to get back to his feet. Instead, he kind of propels himself forward and dives for the line. But the referee says, I can't see any studs on the ground, so he's not trying to get back to his feet. Therefore, it's no try, and we come back for a penalty. Toulon up for a scrum under the posts. They get a penalty in the first scrum and then up for a second. Munster lock out the scrum the second time, and they deny Toulon as they go to the right. And then again, they come back to the left. Domon goes through a gap and over to score. And he went outside Jeremy Lockman, I think. But he had players outside him, but he backed himself. He got over and got the score. The conversion makes it 7 points to 6, and that was a halftime score. Munster then, right at the restart, at the start of the second half, give away a penalty. This allows Toulon to have a sustained period in the Munster 22. Munster holding about 10 metres out from their own line, but there's a lapse of concentration from Alatoa, and Ben White capitalises. He snipes over, converted for 14 points to 6. And, you're thinking it's another costly yellow card period for Munster. You think back to that one against Bath, which basically cost them any kind of chance of getting anything out of that game. And then here, they've now conceded 2 tries while Byrne is off the field, and he comes back on just after that score. Munster then strike back right away. As I said, back up to 15, they attack off a scrum. They shift it left to right, and O'Connor with a lovely missed pass to put Nash over, converted for 14 points to 13. Toulon then attacking, looking to get to width. There's a poor pass, but Drayon kind of reaches behind him and actually collects it and moves up the line a little bit, then puts in a chip into space. The bounce is lovely for him. He regathers and goes over to score. And just a great piece of skill from him. Converted for 21 points to 13. Nankerville then goes to the bin for playing the 9 when, Toulon had a good attacking opportunity. And it was just poor discipline from Munster, I think, in the second half. Just making life really difficult for themselves. Then we have, Abadi goes to the bin as well because Casey takes a mark. He then taps it, looks to go quickly, and just instinct, gets tackled, but you can't do that. So off to the bin you go. Munster then off feet a ruck, and Domon makes it 24-13. I thought he was very good from the tee today. Clever kick into 22 then from Munster. It doesn't quite go to hand as they kind of, look to gather and potentially score, but it is a difficult line out for Toulon, and they make a mess of it. Munster disrupting, and Munster actually turned the ball over. They go left. Daly is in space, but a couple of really great covering tackles from Toulon. Make sure that he doesn't get in. Munster go right. There's a cross kick. It kind of bounces above Nash's head, who gathers it, but he's got zero momentum, so he gives it off to O'Donoghue, who forces his way over through a tackle. Conversion is missed, 24 points to 18, and in all that, Olivon has done something because he goes to the bin, potentially maybe offside or something, or I think there may have been a deliberate knock-on. I'm not sure. I didn't see the replays of it. Toulon then in at the side of Baruch. Penalty to Munster. Up the line into the 22. Toulon steal the line out. they shift it. Albanaz looks to kick clear, but he's charged down by JJ Hanrahan. Munster go right. Nankiville down the wing and then offloads for Farrell to get over. That's converted from out wide, 25 points to 24. Munster hit the lead. O'Donoghue then taking the space beyond the breakdown. Commentary said he was maybe a little bit unlucky with that, but for me, you could see like the referee was hot on the breakdown, and even for instance on the breakdown, and for me it was just a silly thing to do. Toulon with a kick to retake the lead, and Dumont splits the post, and we're at 27 points to 25 now. Munster then on attack in Toulon's half, and it's Presson gets over the ball, wins a crucial penalty for Toulon. They're able to clear from there. Then Munster infringe at the resulting line-out. Toulon go to the corner, and now they're looking for the bonus point try. They're camped on the line. They win a penalty. Albanaz, as they go through a couple of phases, he gets held up over the line, and that is full-time. 27-25 is the full-time score. And yeah, as I said, I think Toulon were good value for the win there. Munster certainly had the chances, but I think Toulon were the more composed of the two teams in that second half, and that took them to the win. So let's have a look at some of the stats, and then we'll come back and talk about each of the teams. So 3 tries each in the game, and that's why Toulon were looking to get that 4th try right to death, because this pool is so tight that one bonus point could be enough. And it wasn't just a bonus point for them. If they had scored a try and converted it, then they would have taken a bonus point away from Munster. And who knows, maybe that bonus point for Munster is going to be, enough to maybe put them through to the knockout stages. We don't know yet. As I said, this pool's so tight that it's not going to be decided really until the final round. On to attack then. So actually, just one thing to say. I don't normally cover kicking success from the tee, but 100% for Toulon and 80% for Munster. So one miskick from Munster, and potentially it could have been a draw for them, but again, it happened in the middle of the game. So for me, you can't really look at it like that, because those 2 extra points from Munster completely change the way the game plays out from there, if you like, because it changes decisions that maybe Toulon made, where they might have gone for the posts, where at that stage, if Munster have 2 more points, maybe they're going to the corner, etc., and the whole game changes from there. But meters made, first of all, 322 from 152 carries for Toulon, so making about just a tad over 2 meters per carry. Munster 242 from 77, which is just around 3 meters per carry. So Munster making more on the carries. Clean breaks then 4 to 6 for Munster, and defenders beaten 19 for Toulon, so right about 1 in 5 conversion right there. Munster only 8 defenders beaten and 6 clean breaks is brilliant, but for me the support wasn't quite there when they made those breaks. Obviously they got themselves a couple of tries, but you would have expected a little bit more, I think, from them in that. And we kind of saw glimpses of what their attack is capable of in the first half, and then in the second half, when the finishing for the tries is very good when they got that going. But yeah, it feels like a little bit more tuning on the attack, and it could be an absolute weapon for them. Offloads then 12 to 5, passes 169 to 96, and possession 65% to 35, and territory 78 to 22. So looking at those stats, you would think like Toulon should should have easily won the game. So much ball and most of it, the vast majority of it in the Munster half. But Munster's defence was really good. They frustrated them a lot, and Munster took the chance as well too. And it's just a case now of I think for McMillan and his team of coaches is how can Munster get themselves in, create more positions and be able to basically make more try opportunities and still retain the same kind of finishing rate as well. And I think that's what they're going to need if they do make the round of 16. Onto defence then, tackles made 75 to 198, and tackle success 83 and 84. So they're decent at Champions Cup level. Both teams, their defence going well. Turnovers 1 then 7 for Toulon, 11 for Munster. I said Munster really good at the breakdown today, but Toulon, they kind of took a more targeted approach, and that in its own way as well was successful for them. On to set piece then, lineouts. 15 from 16 for Toulon for 94%, and 7 for Munster. They got 64%, so that must be 7 from 11, I would say. I'm just guessing here because they don't tell you on this website like how many actual lineouts the team had, but 7 from 11 sounds about right for 64%, because 7 from 10 would be 70. So it's definitely somewhere like that. Scrums 1 then 4 to 9, 100% for Toulon, 90% for Munster. And Toulon, when Byrne was in the bin, they got they had a bit of a nudge in 1 or 2 scrums, but for the most part it was decent parity, and Munster won a couple of scrum penalties themselves as well. And given the talk and the build up that how good that Toulon front row was, you were thinking Munster, they've kind of struggled a bit at set piece, scrum and line out this year, and maybe that could be an issue for them, but it certainly wasn't. So fair play to the Munster front row for that. On to then kicking. So 26 kicks from hand to 30 for 733 meters to 813. So you're talking about for Toulon, average just under 30 meters. It kind of high 20s for them, and Munster then round about 25, and that kind of area, 20 to 25. If it's in there, it tells you that the team mostly box kicked. But I think both teams today had that mix of contestable kicks, but also long kicks. It was, both teams, I think, were looking to make sure that, given the number of errors I think that were being made, that the ball was in the opposition half as much as they could, so that if any errors happened, it was either away from your own line if you make it, or close to the opposition's line if they make it. But then retain kicks, 3 for Toulon, 2 for Munster, and then onto the breakdown, 101 rucks, 1 for 96% for Toulon, and 46 for 90% for Munster. Turnovers 1 at the rucks, then 7 for Toulon, 11 for Munster, and maul totals, 10 mauls for Toulon, 7 of those were successful for 70%, and Munster, not a single maul in the game. Again, that's what I'm talking about in terms of getting themselves in more positions, that they never actually got themselves in a position where they were kicking to the corner from a penalty. So there was never really a reason for them to go to their maul. On to discipline then, penalties conceded, 7 for Toulon, which is great. Again, always keep it in single figures if you can. 14 for Munster, though, is too many, and especially towards the end of the game where the game was on a knife edge and they were the ones that were conceding the penalties. And ultimately, it was the difference between the teams. 2 yellow cards each from as well. So let's talk about the teams. Let's start with Toulon. The first half, I felt they were very sloppy in their play, but they weren't giving up that many opportunities to Munster, and basically denying Munster any real chance of scoring a try and limiting to those couple of penalties. So that part of the play defensively, I think, was decent from them, but you could see that at times I think overplaying a little bit, maybe making things a little bit too complicated for themselves, where you felt if they kept it simple, they might get a bit more change out of the Munster team. In the second half, then they kind of changed tact a little bit. Not as risky in their plays. More involved with the forwards and then going to width. And that I think benefited them more. We saw Zach Mercer coming into the game a bit more. Thought Ribbons was good in the first half, and until he went off in the second half. But Mercer, was almost anonymous, honestly, in the first half. Second half, though, he's very good. Ben White, I thought, was very good throughout. We talked about Dreon and Domont as well. Were excellent for them. Olivon, involved in some things, but the major thing that stood out for me was that he got the yellow card. I think he was maybe, I think Mercer was probably, for me, was to stand out in their back row. As I said, they kind of come into it more in that second half. But overall, I thought their strategy for the game in the second half, making sure they're playing in the Munster half for the most part, and then cutting out the errors and, tightening up on their discipline as well, and almost allowing Munster to give away the penalties as well. So very good from them. And it's an excellent win, even if they didn't get the bonus point at the end, because again, this pool is so tight, but they're the ones now going off the back of a win into that final round. Munster then, kind of some mixed performances. I thought O'Connor was decent, for a young lad. Then, Farrell and Ankerville, they had some decent moments in the game, but they kind of drifted out of it as well, and not as impactful. But that's going to happen if you've got so little ball and so little territory as well. I thought Nash was decent, but there was a few times where he was down injured as well. And that's kind of a worry with that kind of thing, whether he was at 100%, but still some very good contributions to the game. I thought Daly was very good at full back. Coombs, kind of like Olivon, we didn't see that much of him in the game, appearing. I thought O'Donoghue was good, the back row, Dogbo while he was on. Byrne, again, did some decent stuff, but the thing that stood out for me was getting the yellow card, honestly. Then Crowley at 10, mixed report for him as well, kick out on the full, wasn't really on the cross kick that he went for. But overall, I thought it was a decent game from him, and you can see, he's still a young lad, and he's definitely, like improving in terms of his trade. But I would have liked to see Munster maybe kicking into space a little bit more, because they were under the cosh so much in terms of the territory battle, that I would have liked to see him, yes, the up and unders are great and you can compete for them, but identify the space as well and just turn that Toulon defence a little bit and get Munster on the front foot a little bit more. I would have liked to have seen him maybe do that a bit more. Thought Casey was decent at 9 as well. As I said, the front row went really well, given that, they were thinking before the game like they might be in for a bit of a pacing in the scrum, but they had, none of it at all. They maybe, just about edged the scrum overall during the game. But ultimately, for Munster, I think the big thing for them is, two big things. One, discipline has to improve, because I think that's basically what put Toulon in the position to actually, be leading the game at the death. But two, then, the fact that Munster were able to kind of hold on there right at the death and deny them that bonus point try and keep hold of their own losing bonus point. So definitely, positives and negatives for them to take out of this game.